Hello viewers, and welcome to another Mathinator video. This time I will be doing SAT Practice Test 9, section number 3, Math with No Calculator. And you can download a blank copy of this test at collegeboard.org. That way you can work these problems out along with me. Because of course one of the keys to success on the SAT is to practice and practice and practice and practice. But of course you need to practice doing the problems correctly. The more you practice doing them correctly, the sharper your math skills will be, and the better you'll be able to do on the test. So working the problems out along with the video like this one and the other videos that I have made for the other practice tests will help you out tremendously. Now also, with any test that you take, you want to make sure that you read each question carefully. And when it comes to these math questions, these math problems, you want to make sure that you are reading each question slowly, carefully, and thoroughly. Make sure you understand exactly what it is asking you. Take note of the givens in the word problem. Make sure you understand how you know when you have gotten the correct answer. So as I go through these, I will be reading each question one time and then go about solving them. And as I solve them, give a little advice, some tips to help you recognize the math concepts and help you recognize some other little tricks of the trade that can help you out and save you some time as you take the test, and you will be well on your way to doing well. All right, that's enough of an intro. Let's go ahead and get into it. 2x minus y equals 8. X plus 2y equals 4. For the system of equations above, what is the value of x plus y? Well, that means we're going to have to solve for x and solve for y to find the value of x plus y. We have two linear equations, and in both of them, we have a variable with a coefficient of 1. That's one of the things we look for. So that way we can eliminate that variable by isolating it. And so we can either say x equals 4 minus 2y, or we can say y equals 2x minus 8. And I'm going to go with y equals 2x minus 8. So putting that, well, I went ahead and did that anyway. Okay. So I would say we put that in for y right here, but since we already isolated that x, we can go ahead and say x equals 4 minus 2x minus 8. So x equals 4 minus 4x plus 16. So we have 5x equals 20, giving us x equals 4. And now we've got y is going to equal 2x minus 8. So y is equal to x minus 8, which equals, of course, 0. So now x plus y is 4 plus 0, which is equal to 4. Which of the following is equivalent to 2 times the quantity x squared minus x plus 3 times the quantity x squared minus x? Now looking at that right there, seeing that we have x squared minus x attached to both coefficients, we can treat that or treat these as like terms and just add 2 plus 3, which is 5, x squared minus x. Now distributing 5x squared minus 5x, answer choice A. And of course you could have also said I'm going to distribute here, and then combine like terms that way, and of course you would have gotten the same answer. Which of the following statements is true about the graph of the equation 2y minus 3x equals negative 4 in the xy plane? All right, it has a negative slope and a positive y-intercept. It has a negative slope and a negative y-intercept. It has a positive slope and a positive y-intercept. It has a positive slope and a negative y-intercept. Well, in order to find that out, let's go ahead and put it into slope-intercept form. So we'll have 2y equals 3x minus 4. So y equals 3 halves x minus 2. And we see that is a positive slope and a negative y-intercept, answer choice D. The front of a roller coaster car is at the bottom of a hill and is 10 feet above the ground. If the front of the roller coaster rises at a constant rate of 8 feet per second, which of the following equations gives the height h in feet of the roller coaster, of the front of the roller coaster car, s seconds after it starts up the hill? All right, so we see we're looking for, we have h equals. All right, let's just draw a situation here. And we see that it starts off 15 feet above the ground. So it starts off when x is 0, or in this case, since we're talking about h and s, when s is 0, h is 15. So right there, that tells us our y-intercept is 15, which has to be answer choice A. And then the other part of that, it's rising at a constant rate of 8 feet per second. So that right there tells us our slope, our rate of change, feet per second, is 8s, or 8 is the rate of change. So 8s plus 15. All right, there we go. C equals 75h plus 125. The equation above gives the amount C in dollars an electrician charges for a job that takes H hours. Ms. Sanchez and Mr. Rowland each hired this electrician. The electrician worked 2 hours longer on Ms. Sanchez's job than on Mr. Rowland's job. How much more did the electrician charge Ms. Sanchez than Mr. Rowland? All right, now looking at this, what it comes down to is 2 hours longer. So we don't need to know how long he worked for Ms. Sanchez or Mr. Rowland. All we need to know is that 2 hours longer right there. So they were each charged that flat rate of 125. And so since we're looking at 75h for Mr. Rowland and 75h plus 2 for Ms. Sanchez, since he worked 2 hours longer for Ms. Sanchez, that difference is going to be that 75 times 2 hours, which is $150. And if we just add a little bit more to this, what we're looking at is 75h plus 150 minus 75h. So this was for Ms. Sanchez, this was for Mr. Rowland, and we see those two will sum to 0, 150. The circle above has center O. The length of arc ADC is 5 pi and x equals 100. What is the length of arc ABC? So here we have to look at the fact that we're talking about a central angle, all right, since the vertex is at the center. So everything is proportional, everything is in ratio here. And what we've got ADC, all right, we've got 5 pi is to 100 degrees as, and now arc ADC is to, well, the entire circle is 360 degrees, which means this angle right here is a 260 degree angle. So 260. All right, so now we've got from 100 to 260, we're multiplying 100 times 2.6. So we need to multiply 5 pi times 2.6, which is 13. So 13 pi, answer choice B. If 8 divided by x equals 160, what is the value of x? All right, now this one right here, we have to deal with a real simple math concept. If we have a positive whole number and we're dividing by some other number, and our result, our quotient, is a positive whole number that is larger than the number we started with over here in our numerator, we have to be dividing by a number less than 1. So the only number on here less than 1 is 0.05. 2ax minus 15 equals 3 times x plus 5 times x minus 1. In the equation above, a is a constant. If no value of x satisfies the equation, what is the value of a? So what value of a will give us a false statement for all values of x? Let's see here. What I want to do, let's just go ahead and expand that right side there. So 2ax minus 15 equals 3x plus 15 plus 5x minus 5. So 2ax minus 15, that equals 8x minus 10. Make that plus 10. Here we go. All right. Now, in order to solve this, we need, I'll say, a contradicting statement on each side. And looking at what we have 8x plus 10. So if 2ax equals 8x, or if we say if 2a equals 8, then we'll have a statement 8x minus 15 equals 8x plus 10, which cannot be. That would mean no value of x can satisfy that equation. So let's go ahead and say we've got 2a equals 8, so a equals 4. If a equals to 4, then there is no value of x that will satisfy that equation. A system of three equations is graphed in the xy plane above. How many solutions does the system have? All right, so we should know that with a system of three equations, just like a system of two equations, their solution is where they intersect. And in this case, it has to be where all three intersect. And all three intersect only at that one point right there. So it is answer choice B, one solution. All right, ax plus 3 times 5x squared minus bx plus 4 equals 20x cubed minus 9x squared minus 2x plus 12. The equation above is true for all x, where a and b are constants. And what is the value of a times b? Well, what we're going to have to do here is multiply those two to expand them and have them equal to our polynomial there on the right. So expanding that is going to give us 5ax cubed minus abx plus 4ax plus 15x squared minus 3bx plus 12. All right. Now let's look at what we have going on. Now, in order for them to be equal on both sides, that means 5a has to equal 20 because 5ax cubed has to equal 20x cubed. So 5a equals 20, meaning a equals 4. Hey, a equals 4 again. All right. Knowing that a equals 4, all right, that should be minus abx squared. Okay. Where do we want to go next? I know that a equals 4. Now that I know a equals 4, I can look at my x terms, and I know that 4ax, there we go. So 4a minus 3b, and the coefficient on x on the other side, that's going to be equals negative 2. And that will give me 16 minus 3b equals negative 2, so that negative 3b equals negative 18, and b equals 6. So we have a times b, 4 times 6 equals 24. Now we could have solved that another way. All right. I don't claim to say that the way that I show up on here is the best or the only way, but it is what I, at the moment when I look at these, I think of, just going through what would be the most efficient path to the answer. And so sometimes I will show a different method of getting to the answer. What we could have done, once we found out that a is equal to 4, we could have said, okay, so that means 15 minus 4b equals negative 9. So that would say that negative 4b equals negative 24, which would also give us to say, well, 4b equals 24. And then we wouldn't even have to solve 4b, because since we already know a is 4 and we're looking for ab, 4b, ab equals 24. All right, which of the following, x divided by x minus 3 equals 2x divided by 2. Which of the following represents all the possible values of x that satisfy the equation above? All right, so rational on both sides of the equal sign. What I want to do is just cross multiply. So that way we'll have 2x equals 2x squared minus 6x. We have a quadratic. Let's set it equal to 0. That'll give us 2x squared minus 8x equals 0, we can factor out a 2x. X minus 4 equals 0. And so now that equation is true if x equals 0 or if x equals 4. So that gives us answer choice B. 1 divided by 2x plus 1 plus 5. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above for x greater than 0? All right, so simplifying a rational, let's see what we're going to have to do here. Well, in order to add those two expressions, they have to have the same denominator. So that means we're looking at 1 divided by 2x plus 1 plus 5 times 2x plus 1 divided by 2x plus 1. And now that will give us 1 plus 10x plus 5 divided by 2x plus 1. And then go ahead and finishing off simplifying that, combining our like terms. That will give us 10x plus 6 divided by 2x plus 1. Answer choice D. The graph of the function f in the xy plane above is a parabola. Which of the following defines f? All right, so we're talking about a parabola of the form y equals a. All right, looking at our answer choices, x minus h squared plus k. And we know that hk are the coordinates of our vertex. So here's our vertex right here. So we're looking at a, and then we're going to have x minus 3, all right, because we changed the sign on the x there, x minus 3 squared plus 1. That's what we're looking for, x minus 3 squared plus 1. And we have two answer choices that satisfy that. Then the other thing we're looking at is substituting in, all right, we can pick either one. Let's just go ahead and pick A. So we're saying, does 5, all right, f of x, does 5 equal 4 times, all right, x minus 3, 2 minus 3, negative 1 squared plus 1? Does 5 equal 4 plus 1? I'm pretty sure 5 equals 5. So that tells us A is correct. Now, you could have just tried that with all 4. All right, on this one you would have gotten lucky by saying, hey, if I just substitute, all right, my f of x is y, and then substitute my x value in for x, all right. But what if the correct answer was D? And so looking at just knowing that our vertex was 3, 1, so that dictated how our equation had to be written. It eliminated 2 wrong answer choices, and that way now we're just down to a 50-50 shot, and we just had to test one of our answer choices. And as you see, since it was A, and if A had not given us a true statement, then we would have known that the answer was C. Y greater than or equal to x plus 2, 2x plus 3y less than or equal to 6. In which of the following does the shaded region represent the solution set in the xy plane to the system of inequalities above? All right, looking at our answer choices, they all intersect, or they all have a y-intercept of 2, positive 2, and each of our answer choices has 1 up, 1 down, 1 positive slope, 1 negative. So that tells me we're going to have to take this second equation, put it into slope-intercept form, because there's nothing obvious to eliminate any incorrect answer choices. That will give us 3y less than or equal to negative 2x plus 6. And we have y less than or equal to negative 2/3 x plus 2. Now, what we're looking for is which answer choice has the shading above the positive slope, all right, above the positive slope and below the negative slope. Well, A has the shading below the positive and the negative. D has the shading above the negative and below the positive. All right, so that eliminates those two. All right, so which one has the shading? Again, we're looking for above the negative, above the positive, and below the negative. And we see that is answer choice B. What is the set of all solutions to the equation square root of x plus 2 equals negative x? All right, so we have that radical there, which means we're going to need to square both sides to get rid of that radical. So we have x plus 2 equals x squared. And now we're looking at x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. Of course, when we have a quadratic, it has to be set equal to 0. So we have x minus 2, x plus 1 equals 0. Now looking at that, we've got x equals 2, x equals negative 1, which looks like answer choice A. But we have to check something here. If we're saying that 2 is the solution, then we've got square root of 2 plus 2 equals negative 2, giving us square root of 4 equals negative 2. Now, when we're looking at solutions like this, we want the principal square root, meaning we want the positive square root, which we do not get in the case of this one right here. So we have 2 is equal to negative 2. That is not a true statement. But if we put negative 1 in for x, then we've got the square root of negative 1 plus 2 equals negative of negative 1. So we have square root of 1 equals 1, 1 equals 1. So our solution is B, negative 1. What is the volume in cubic centimeters of a right rectangular prism that has a length of 4 centimeters, a width of 9 centimeters, and a height of 10 centimeters? Okay, so a right rectangular prism, that means our volume is going to be length times width times height. Or we could say the area of the base times height. So we're looking at 4 times 9 times 10. 4 times 9 is 36. 36 times 10 would be 360. And of course, we're talking cubic centimeters. All right, 4x plus 2 equals 4. If x satisfies the equation above, what is the value of 2x plus 1? All right, now on this one here, seems like, okay, let's solve for x, and then we can substitute, but no, math eyes. 4x plus 2 is twice as much as 2x plus 1. So since 4x plus 2 equals 4, 2x plus 1 is going to equal half of that. So 2x plus 1 equals 4x plus 2 divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2, 2x plus 1 equals 2. The figure above shows the complete graph of the function f in the xy plane. The function g, not shown, is defined by g of x equals f of x plus 6. What is the maximum value of the function g? All right, since this is the complete graph of the function of f, we need to find out, well, what is the maximum value of f? And we see the maximum value of f is 2, and it reaches 2 3 different times. So since g of x is f of x plus 6, the maximum value of the function g is going to be the maximum value of the function f plus 6. And that gives us 2 plus 6, 8. All right. Triangle PQR has right angle Q. If sine of R equals 4/5, what is the value of the tangent P? All right, nice trig problem here. So let's go ahead and draw a triangle PQR. I don't like the way that looks. Okay, a little bit better. Let's shave that off right there. Okay, and it says, let's see, we have, let's go ahead and just say P, Q, R, since it tells us right angle Q. And it says the sine of R is 4/5. And we know the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So the sine of R, we've got 4/5. And we want to know what is the tangent of P. And of course, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we need to look at this and recognize that we've got a Pythagorean triple here. If we have hypotenuse 5 and one side length is 4, that means our other side length has to be 3. And so the tangent of P opposite is 3, adjacent is 4, and so we have 3/4. You could put 0.75, but when it comes to our trig ratios, I like to keep them as fractions. The graph of the linear function f is shown in the xy plane above. The graph of the linear function g, not shown, is perpendicular to the graph of f and passes through the point 1, 3. What is the value of g of 0? Okay, so a couple things going on here. First of all, if g is perpendicular to f, that means g and f, their slopes are negative reciprocals. Make sure you know what that means. All right, but that will be explained very shortly, which means we need to find out what is the slope of f. And we see the slope of f, rise over run, it has a rise of -2 and a run of 1. All right, going left to right, a rise of -2, so it falls to, that means f, we'll say slope of f equals -2, which means the slope of g, being perpendicular to that, having the negative reciprocal, the slope of g has to be 1/2. So we know the slope of g, and we know a point that it passes through, so we can find the equation of g. And we're going to use our point slope formula. Y minus y1, y minus 3 equals 1/2 x minus, and x1 is 1. So that gives us y equals, y minus 3 equals 1/2 x minus 1/2. Adding 3 to both sides, we get y equals 1/2 x minus 1/2 plus 3. All right, so 3 as a fraction with 2 as the denominator is 6/2. So we have y equals 1/2 x plus 5/2. And that 5/2, of course, is our y-intercept, which is the value of g when x equals 0. So the y-intercept is g of 0. So we can say the value of g of 0 is 5/2 or 2.5. Either one. There we go. All right, and we are finished with this video. All right, so keep on practicing, and I wish you the best.